I'm done. Let's do it.
All right, so let's start with Gil and Myra. They were having some conversations around taking last names that I wanted to bring up because I feel like I get a lot of different responses from people when I talk about this. And on a personal note, since like Aku and I are engaged and going to be getting married next year, this is something I'm thinking about for myself too. So he said that he is very traditional and wishing that she would take his last name. And she was saying that she didn't want to, and her reasoning was because she wanted to keep her dad's name. And I just wanted to, I guess, open it up to you guys because I feel like in the context of this marriage, it being married at first sight, the conversation should really be different because there's no like trust or history to base anything off of. So I guess, Mabel, how do you feel about this whole thing?
I have a tough time with it. I want to say I would probably keep my last name just because that's my culture. My mom still has her last name. This is what we do. And I understand that he was even talking about like, hey, a lot of times you hyphenate, you keep both, which I get it. And there's also a lot of people who want to take his last name, which is very like, you know, transferring of own, like, you know, hey, I'm now a part of your family, for example. I'm now...
You're going to say ownership? It's like, all right.
A little bit.
Say ownership.
I mean,
wow.
Not wrong.
Say ownership. I know, but I just don't want to offend anybody. So
It's mine now. I put my name on it. That's how that works.
Stamp seals approved.
It's like a dog that's marking a hydrant. Like, yep, I own this now.
Cool.
That was
cool.
But at the same time,
very,
like,
it's
I
kind of
don't know. I mean, you have couples that it's just kind of like a sign of unity, right? You're coming together and you have the same last name now. You're literally one in the eyes of the law now as part of being married. So, hey, as a part of that, you're taking his last name and you are so close to that person now that you are one, which is also very sweet. I mean, my sister took her husband's last name.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel about this, Aku?
I don't see the big deal with it either way. I personally, I find it a little odd to want someone else to change. So from the guy's perspective, I find it odd to be like, you must change your last name to mine. I don't have that drive. So I don't really care. That being said, I think where it gets tricky is with the kids. I think that's where, so like, you know, the example you gave with your, you know, your personal example with your family, I imagine you all use your dad's last name, right? And
I have both, actually. So
really,
in our culture, yeah, that's how you know kind of which sides you came from. So my two last names, one my dad and one my mom's last name. My mom, same thing. She has her mom and her dad's last name. It's a way of like showing your lineage to say, this is my dad's side of the family and this is my mom's side of the family. And
that's and they're like, are they hyphenated names. Or are they just like separate?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I mean, it's different being here in the States. In the States, I just have one last name. Nobody really cares about my second last name. But in DR, I go there and people know my both last names, and you usually are addressed like people.
That's really
when
nice.
You sign your name and stuff like that, you just keep your dad's last name. And when I passed my name on down to my kids, it was my dad's last name that I passed down.
Gotcha.
It's just a familiarity thing.
I find okay, so for all the stuff about like me not caring, I do find it interesting, well, personally, but I do find it interesting other people, what they do for last names. So like I know for my family, before my grandfather made the decision to pick a certain last name, and that's what we all go by, it was the tradition was you take the name of your father. So like whatever their first name was, that was then your surname. And then, so
cool.
Like that's one of the, like my dad knows like, I think it's like 14 generations. And that was one of the things like we used to memorize that. And it's a lot easier because it's just this person is the son of this person. And then it's a lot easier to track that. And then I know certain cultures will do everyone who's from this town has this surname. And that's just like, so you'll have like 400, 2,000 people all with the same surname. It's like, yep, they come from this town, and that's how you know. And yeah, so again, I don't mind personally, but super cool.
Yeah.
Super cool in general.
Yeah, that is really cool. Thank you for sharing that. I think it's like, that's the part that I think is cool, when you can kind of pay homage to both sides. I think where it becomes kind of a problem is when the person who's not expected to change their name feels an entitlement to the other one to do so.
Yeah.
So like Gil saying that he is more traditional and he wants her to change her name. Like, I don't think he said it in like a way that was mean at all, but there's a little bit of me that's just like, ooh, I don't like that at all, because he is like not acknowledging that it's a big deal. Like, imagine someone asking you to change your name. Like, it's part of your identity, it's part of your history, it's part of your family, and like that's just like a lot to ask of someone, I think, when it's just like, this is an expectation that I have, versus asking how they feel about it, because like they're the one ultimately that it affects the most. And also what I was kind of trying to allude to earlier was, I feel like because they've been married at first sight, I feel like the conversation around changing last names is just really premature, because
Agreed.
It's like, you guys aren't even really sure if like you want to be in this relationship. So why are we trying to do like annoying legal stuff to change names? And then like, we're not really sure what foundation we're building yet. Like, we're really at the beginning. And so why don't we have this conversation a year from now? And if we get to that conversation, then yeah, maybe I am more inclined to be like, yep, this is what I want, and move forward with it. But I just feel like that's like a massive trust fall after a trust fall they already did. That doesn't feel fair.
True.
Considering the success.
And maybe it should just be like, hey, what would you prefer, versus, hey, I think you should do this. You know what I mean? Just because it's so soon, just be curious. Don't put any assumptions on it.
I was just going to say, considering the success rate of this show, that's very
last
premature.
season, look at that.
Yeah,
because we've seen from Ryan and Clara that she had changed her last name to his last name, and now that they're divorced, I think she said she's keeping it because she's already changed it, which is
a lot of work.
It's just a lot, like it. You kind of got to deal with it either way. So I just wish everybody would hold off on that conversation, or just at least let it be, like you're saying, Mabel, just curiosity. Like, what do you think about this? Like, okay, we'll figure that out later. We're on our honeymoon, and I've known you for like 3 days.
Yeah. Okay, other DR question. So if you take both names, both last names, what last name do you decide to... So like, you have two now. If you were to hypothetically get married, which... Do you take those two, and then the other person would take their two, so you'd have 4 last names? Or do you get do you have to pick one out of your two to bring over?
I would, if I were to take his last name, I would probably keep my dad's, and then like, kind of like it then become those two my last names, like my husband's last name and my dad's last name.
Okay.
But honestly, I'm on the fence with that. Like, I don't know if I would change either of my last names. I would pass on my dad's last name and let my kids have 2 last names, where their father's and mine. But that it is tough. Like, it's a part of me that it's my history. I get to, because I know my mom's 2 last names, I know my grandma's maiden name, and I know what side of that family it comes from. So when I hear someone with her last name, I get to ask, like, oh, do you, are you related via, these channels? And it's kind of like an interesting...
It's your lineage. Like, it's incredibly personal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when people are flippant about it, that's why I get mad. It's like asking someone to like leave a house that they built with their own hands, and that their family built. It's like, it's just different.
But like, I definitely get the compromise where even Gil was like, hey, how about hyphenating, keeping your dad's last name and just adding mine to it. I mean, a lot of people do that, which it's kind of like you get to watch your own journey, right? You have your lineage from your dad's last name, and you now get to see where your life continues with your husband's last name.
Right.
Yeah. And like, I find it cool when people will like, oh, we use this middle name because this was my great grandmother's first name, and like, it just, there's so many cool things that you can do with that, which are like great compromises. And then other point I wanted to make was, part of that is like, we just aren't able to see our previous generations, I think, and that's like a way for us to know. The poor kids that are in the future who, like, if I was to become, we have kids, Ashley and I have kids, and I become grandparents, they can go and see YouTube videos of me just talking garbage. And, you know, maybe they'll see that and be
watching
like,
this very recording, like, y'all were dumb.
I'm good. I'm good on that. I'm good
guys
on
thought
that
you were
name.
so smart.
Like, all of my
Auntie
grandma's
Mabel was
stories
cool.
are
Always
sounds
has
awesome.
been. She's a surfer.
out of context.
Oh my
This
gosh,
is
can
gonna
you
be-
like fast forward us how many years? Oh, that'd be so cool. I secretly, this is my message to my future kids. Please come back and watch this because your mom is
And
awesome.
call you mother.
Just gotta say.
Oh, your mother. Yeah, I saw this one comedian who was like, oh, the future generation's going to have some awful grandparents. And he's like, when I talk to my grandparents, they show me pictures and I'm just blatantly stealing this man's joke, so I will change it around a little. But like, I talk to my grandparents and they're like, oh, this is a picture of me next to this person who did the first transatlantic flight. And he's like, our generation, when we're showing grandkids, it's going to be like, so this is a picture of the breakfast I had. That looked really cool. Here's
This
a
is me
picture
doing a
of-
TikTok dance. I'm a savage.
What is that movement? What?
Oh no, that's a thing for sure, right? So like, oh, this
Anyway.
is a picture of me at H&M. I wanted to see if the shirt looked cute. Like, it's just stupid shit like that. Poor kids.
Oh, great.
Yeah. I feel like we're mostly going to be passing down just pictures of our dogs. Like, this is a photo album of all the dogs. This is him sleeping. This is him sleeping somewhere else.
So many of our pictures are dog pictures.
a lot.
It's
It's really
like,
quite a lot.
It's, you know.
Oh, you're great.
All right, let's move over